This country should be very rich. In fact, it is one of the poorest in the world. Zambia, in southern Africa, one of the biggest copper reserves on earth. All the major powers are scrambling for this metal that is as essential to their economies as oil. There is no war here, no dictatorship, yet Zambia is ruined. And there is worse. Here in Mufulira, the owners of the Mupani mine have built the biggest smelting plant in Africa. It emits a toxic gas, sulfur dioxide. It burns the trachea. It eats away the lungs. Those who inhale it have the taste of rust in their mouths. Once released into the air, particles trigger acid rain. People here call this gas center. It is potentially lethal. Welcome to hell. Welcome to Mufulira, where in 2 years, locals have gone from servitude to rebellion.
Father, if you can just foresee from what I've just explained to you, so my survival at the moment is very risky, because I'm a father of 7 children. I'm married, my family needs to eat, my family, my children needs to go to school, pay school fees.
After working in the mines for too long, maybe you may think that no, there is nothing I can do. But somehow, somewhere, me, I can promise you that God never fails. In heaven, there is no global, there is no economic crunch or something like that. Him is the one who is going to help us.
Christopher and Carter settled in Mufulira with his wife and his child 18 years ago. An employee of Mupani, he dug mine shafts with explosives 1,000 meters underground. In 2009, the mine made him redundant, along with 3,000 others. There was no strike, no protest. The 40,000 inhabitants of his neighborhood, Kankoyo, are paralyzed by the fear of unemployment. Besides, what can they do when the town is full of security guards employed by the mine?
Just a minute, camera. Camera. Not what I interpret the problem. Very important. Fresh stuff tonight. It's a take there's no way. Once one tomorrow, one day is a good one. I won't dare is a good one. Once one tomorrow. Tia image tomorrow. Twala monanga babela poku nga kwala babela kona nkatupi ni yeye ne bala.
Babela po junya kanshi.
The only hope, the only solution, to be resourceful. With these 2 electric shavers, Christopher must feed his wife and 7 children. "300 kilometers away, Lusaka, the capital of Zambia. Here lives the man who for years has been trying to figure out where the money from copper goes. Xavier Mwambwa is an economist and director of the Centre for Trade Policy and Development, a well-established NGO that monitors the flight of capital from Africa.
When I was a child, I wanted to be a NASA scientist and dreamt of going to the moon. But as I grew older, I started getting interested in economic issues and often kept wondering why Zambia was so poor, even though it has so many natural resources. It's very easy to see the link between trade policies and poverty. Historically, Zambia's copper has been exploited and used to develop the European countries at the expense of Zambia's own development. In the late 1980s to the 1990s, the government was persuaded by the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to privatize most of the state-owned companies, including the mines. This is because Zambia had huge debts, and that was one of the conditions to receive help from the multinational institutions. The only state mining company then, the Zambia Consolidated Copper Mine, or ZCCM, was split up and sold to a dozen multinational companies.
Zambia gained its independence in 1964. Its leaders immediately nationalized the mines. Thanks to copper, many schools and hospitals were built. The country became one of the most prosperous in Africa. Within 10 years, its GDP had caught up that of Portugal. But following the oil crisis, the price of copper fell. Zambia's revenues collapsed. The IMF and the World Bank recommended borrowing. At this point, the debt was still serviceable. But then, a second disaster struck. In the early 1980s, the American Federal Reserve suddenly raised its interest rates to attract capital. Europe followed suit, and Zambia's interest repayments tripled overnight. The country was suffocated. Again, it turned to the IMF, but at that time, their policies were ultra-liberal. There would be no more funds without massive privatization. No more public schools or healthcare for all. Everything was dismantled. As for the mines, they were sold off in 2000. Since then, the price of copper has multiplied by 5. Too late for Zambia. Virtually nothing belongs to the country anymore. The agreements signed between the multinationals and the Zambian government were long kept secret. Xavier discovered them in 2007.
Now, these development agreements were meant to enable the mining companies to have the least social and environmental responsibility, to have also the least possible taxes. For example, the world average for the mineral royalty tax for copper was about 3%, and yet these mining companies were only paying a meager amount of 0.6%. The consequence of this was that the government and the country was being deprived of the much needed money that it could have gotten from this mining.
When the company are claiming to say, no, we have cleaned up everything. We have done everything.
In fact,